And hello everyone, this is Dennis Connolly, your Den at the Door. Today in lovely, outside of lovely Sturgeon Bay at the Crossroads Learning Center. Crossroads is as you would in a car. Come to a crossroads, you can go to the left, to the right, straight ahead, be indecisive, go backwards. Here there's no going backwards. It's learning about science, the environment, and history. This is truly a unique place put together by those who cherish learning in Door County and specifically Sturgeon Bay. We're going to be visiting some antique historical sites here on the grounds. This is a place where you can go with the family and picnic, cross-country ski, attend educational programs. It's truly a jewel of Door County and Sturgeon Bay. And today is September 15th, and we're enjoying this beautiful day. We have perfect weather. The attendance at the lecture currently is, the lecture hall is packed. This facility is absolutely lovely. We'll be touring it via the video in a few minutes. Beautiful architectural style. Lovely amphitheater, tremendous learning rooms and laboratories in this one-of-a-kind beautiful jewel of Door County, put together by concerned citizens for science and history growth for the people, not just the children, of Door County. We will all continue to learn today through the wonders of this place. Dennis Connolly, your Den at the Door, here again with one of the aficionados at today's great program, Dee Paulson. Hi, Dee.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm real good. And especially being here today with all the great activities, can you give us a rundown of exactly what's going on today and the purpose of this fine event?
Well, here at Crossroads, we're celebrating Family Science Day today, and it's Waterfest. We especially want to draw attention to the preciousness of water. It's been a topic of conversation as well as in the paper throughout the summer, and there's a concern in Door County, which there rightly should be. We want people to understand that we need to take care of the water, and we have a responsibility to do that as well. Our keynote speaker today, doing two presentations for us, is Dr. Professor Shakashiri. He's a UW-Madison chemistry professor who has come to us special today. He's started a program called Science is Fun. He believes greatly in promoting science literacy, and he was very excited to hear about our program, bringing awareness to people about the preciousness of water. So he's doing two programs today for us and emphasizing the importance of water. I attended not only just a short part of that presentation. He's not only entertaining and informative, but with that combination and the graphic of the experiments that he's doing, brings the whole concept of chemistry and relevance of water to life so people can see it up close and dramatically have it presented to them. Right. He is an exciting presenter. That's very good. Mm-hmm. Now, Dee, what other things are going on in the historical part of the Crossroads? We have one of our weed cutters here, and Rick Yedeka will be here from that program talking about the importance of cutting the weeds in the summer. We have the fire trucks here, of course, because they carry precious water to take care of fires in Door County. The Boy Scouts are here setting up and selling hamburgers. We have our Sturgeon Bay Garden Club. You can come and pull vegetables or buy goodies or buy crafts. In the Vigness School, we have several organizations represented talking about the importance of water and what we're doing to take care of our water in Door County, as well as we have several high school students who are painting as representatives for an international program called the River of Words, and it's to promote awareness and understanding of water through art and poetry. And these three artists are working on some pieces that they hope to submit for this contest, and we hope to encourage other students in Door County to participate as well. One wonderful collection of activities, all relevant to water, which when we're here, water all around us, we can take it for granted. That's true.
Yet it's although it's somewhat renewable with the growth of the human population here and the sometimes misuse of water, particularly groundwater. We need to all be educated, aware, made aware, and motivated to
Right.
preserve and enhance the quality of water in Door County.
We also have several exhibitors and demonstrations in the Collins Center, one of which is from UW Oshkosh. We have a group of students and their professor who are here every summer to do the water testing at the beaches as well as well testing.
Neat.
And talk about bacteria counts and what might be affecting that and what we could do differently
Wonderful.
to assure clean water.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're
Dee, it's a pleasure talking to you. Good luck on this day. I'm sure luck has very little to do with it, with all the
It's a
hard
beautiful
work
day.
that you and the other concerned people have put into this.
Thanks
you.
for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you. Here we are at the Crossroads, and we're with some of the finest from Sturgeon Bay, the people who help keep us safe, or when we're not safe, try to make the situation safe again. We have with us Dick Stever. And,
Yep, that's correct.
Thank you. And you are a lieutenant with the fire department? Is
Yes,
that
I'm a
correct?
lieutenant. We have 3 lieutenants on our department, a chief, and then we have 10 full-time firefighters with us, and then we have 28 part-time firefighters.
Wonderful, and you do a wonderful job. You've brought some of your equipment here today. Can you talk about the relevance and the purpose and the importance of water in fighting fires as you do?
Yes, well, as some of the people out there know, fire is a triangle. It takes heat, fuel, and oxygen. And what we do with the water is we take away the heat aspect of the triangle. And you'll see us here today with the kids showing them with our fire hoses how we can make a different pattern on our nozzles. And when we do it to a wider pattern, we call it a fog pattern, is it makes molecules, and those molecules absorb the water or the heat better than a straight stream does, and it also takes the heat away from us when we're going into the fire. So we open it up at a fog to walk in, we get closer to the fire, we'll put it on a straight stream to put the fire out. So
Got it.
if we wouldn't have water, we wouldn't be able to put out fires, to be real honest with you. So water is very important in our job that we do.
Does it also blanket the oxygen supply somewhat?
No, it just strictly takes away the heat aspect. Things have gotten real modern over the years. I've been with the department 31 years, and now they've developed what they call foam that will do that blanketing. Just like if you have a fuel fire, we use a foam product on that, but it's also mixed with water. You don't put it directly that onto the fire, it mixes with water on a certain percentage. Like our A-foam that we'd use on a structure fire at the end for a mop-up, or like if you'd have a mattress fire in your home, it penetrates it and then covers it and keeps the oxygen away from it at that aspect of it. But it's only mixed at about a 3% to 1 foam to water. So water is used on, no matter what you do, if it's a fuel fire, it's mixed at about a 7% to 1 on a fuel fire.
So, you know, water is not only essential in our own personal makeup, but of course, battling the destructive force of fire. And so you've discussed that. Why do you think fire trucks are red? It seems to mimic the color of the fire.
Well, fire trucks, that goes way back into history. Fire trucks have always been red. It's more of it shows it as an emergency as red, because it's like when you go to a stop sign, red means stop. It also is an eye catcher. Some departments have tried the lime green color, but that hasn't caught on as well as the traditional red fire trucks.
So if you're battling a fire and it's not in Sturgeon Bay proper, where you're well hydrant, how do you transport fire or water to the fire that you're battling?
That's why we brought one of our trucks along, our tanker that's just in front of the pumper here that we have. That carries 1,800 gallons of water. We have another tanker that carries 2,300 gallons of water. Each one of our pumpers we take out to a scene carries 1,000 gallons of water on it. And if we need water, then we can usually run back to the city, or we're also capable of drafting water out of a pond. If some people are familiar with around the hitching post area, there's a pond there we go to. Everybody talks about going into the lake to get water, but if anybody's familiar with the area right now, because of water levels, you're about 50 to 100 feet or more away from trying to get at a good water source to suck. And if you don't get our fire hose or our suction hose deep enough into water, you suck all the sand and rocks up, and then that could damage our pumps and everything else like that. So you don't get enough water supply to fill our trucks. So where the rural departments, they just strictly train on that because they don't have hydrants like what we do. Sister Bay has a few and stuff like that, but most of the rural areas train real heavy on rural firefighting. We do, but we carry enough water that on a typical one-bedroom fire, we can put that out with the water we carry.
So just speculatively, if a person had a garage, standalone garage that caught fire, how much water would you usually need to put out a fire like that?
You could range up to at least 5,000 gallons, if not higher.
5,000 gallons.
5,000 gallons. What we do too, we have a nice system here in the county we call mutual aid. So if we need extra tankers, we can call Jacksonport, Southern Door, Sister Bay, Ephraim, wherever we need to get tankers from, we'll call them in and they'll supply us tankers. And we'll do the same. If they call us, we'll supply equipment to them too.
So just as carelessness sometimes produces the fire, your cooperativeness and carefulness helps to upton the fire.
Yes. When a fire starts, there's a saying out there that we're all brothers. So when a fire starts, everybody's ready to respond to help anybody that's in an emergency at that time.
I've observed the fraternal aspect that it goes on in fire departments, and we're all very thankful for that, and we all respect and love you guys a great deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it is. Which plant did they pick that up? Today, on this beautiful day, we're here at the Crossroads again. We're in this beautiful garden that's maintained and it prospers and grows from the loving hands and the care of the good soil, the volunteers, and the many interested people put into it. And it's sort of an antique garden, but we're not talking about antique things. We're here with George Evenson, one of the principal players in the Crossroads. And George, how are you today?
Oh, I'm just fine. Speaking of antique things, I'm close to one.
You know, as long as you keep well oiled, George, I think it's going to work out fine.
Yeah, I think I'm well oiled.
Yes,
right.
We're enjoying this day, and I would like to ask you just a little bit about the background of the Crossroads and what it's doing today.
Okay, the background of the Crossroads was, if you were a native in this area 20 years ago, you saw a plum orchard here. And of course the plum orchard didn't succeed because the market for plums wasn't what it should have been. Well, then the Sturgeon Bay school system, a group of volunteers at the Sturgeon Bay school system called the Sturgeon Bay, anyway, they're connected with the Sturgeon Bay school system. They decided they were going to have a school forest. And the school forest was going to include the old plum orchard and all of the land eventually from Highway H, Michigan to the road over here at the next road over. Well, anyway.
Lily Bay Road, perhaps? Or?
No, it's going south.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
Bad time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have all of that property now, a total of about 120 acres that is owned by the Crossroads. And it's been a long process. Now, I think one of the things you want to remember here that you come to visit the Crossroads is there are really two operations. The place where the historic village is, that has been built by the Door County Historical Society on 5 acres of land that we leased from the Sturgeon Bay Educational Foundation. That was the group. And we began to build this before the center was built. And the Sturgeon Bay school system was going to operate this as part of a school forest. However, because of budgetary problems and some other things, they decided that perhaps this was going to be a load that was going to be a little bit too much to carry for the school system.
So these are reclaimed historical buildings of this district?
Yes, they are. What we did here is we set up a number of buildings that were typical of what you would normally expect of a late 1800s Crossroads village. And so we some of the buildings are reclaimed. The schoolhouse is reclaimed. All the rest of them have been rebuilt. The chapel was built. The green store was built, and we also built We have one completed log cabin that dates back to 1859 or so, and we have another one that's partially completed, and that's the shop house and the Warren house. But the building that you see over here, the Crossroads building, our main learning center, was originally designed to be a part of the Sturgeon Bay school system. Well, when things began to fall apart as far as that relationship was concerned, there's a group of us were together. Some of us were on the Sturgeon Bay education system, some from the Historical Society, got together and said, look, we think we've got a pretty good project here. We think it's going to have a tremendous value to the community. As we have the clearing up north, we have the ridges, and we have these other places, but we have nothing like it down here. And we felt that because it's our major city in the area, that we could get the kind of support that we needed to make this go. And lo and behold, some rather interested people came forward and helped us purchase the land and helped us build the John and Helen Collins Learning Center. And of course, that was John and Helen Collins, local businessman, who put a lot of money into that building.
Thank goodness for their interest.
Oh, thank goodness. If it wouldn't be for the interests of the community, this place wouldn't be here. This is strictly, there was not one tax dollar went into this place.
How marvelous.
It was all done by volunteer workers, by people that were generous in making contributions to us. And it was just, it was almost a miracle when you consider 6 years ago, there really wasn't much here. And now we have a facility that can have a tremendous impact on the educational qualities in the community. We have a lot of school kids come here, a lot of adults coming here. We have an astronomical society that's here. They have a telescope that's up back away from the property here a ways. A gorgeous place. And the
Fine observatory.
Fine observatory, one of the finest in the Middle West. And Ray Stonecipher, another one of our members, put a building up there that's now the Ray and Ruthie Stonecipher Learning Center, or Astronomy Center, and they're developing a first-class operation as far as learning in the astronomy and the science of those things. So this has been moving along almost so fast that it almost seems like a miracle. But I just can't help but thank the community. Thank our donors who have been so willing to come forward and support us financially. There's a lot of money stuck in this place, and it's all local community money. But I want to, in a lot of communities our size, you would never get this kind of outpouring. But we are so fortunate here to have people that have made their money elsewhere in some cases and seen fit to invest it here rather than in New York or Chicago.
And as we see around us, not only is this a place to fall hard in love with, but we see the volunteers among the brambles and the tomatoes and picking the tomatoes and the crops today to be shared with others that are here, and the effort of volunteerism and interest goes on and is reflected even at that level to a high extent.
Oh yeah, we have a philosophy here that we need volunteers, but we also want to assure the volunteers that they're not coming here to waste their time. We know that their time is one of the most valuable products that they have to share with other people. And so what we like to do is organize their work and to encourage them and to train our leaders, and it shows throughout. Our trail system is well maintained. It's used by a lot of people.
I've enjoyed cross-country skiing here myself. Yes.
And we have another surprise that's coming up in a couple of years. On Utah Street, was a name I couldn't remember before, we have a place called the Henson House. That house is, we think, one of the oldest structures in Sturgeon Bay. It was built in about 1856 by a man by the name of Hans Hansen. And he lived there, and when we come to look at that building, we discovered the original log building is there underneath the siding, and we intend to redo that, have it declared a National Historic Site, and it will be a place where It'll be a part of the trail system. It'll be a part of the educational opportunities that we have here in Crossroads. So we're so proud. We're proud of our director, Kagan Haringa, and proud of the work she's done. We're proud of our board of directors. We're proud of the Historical Society, which was really instrumental in making all of this on the village happen. And it's all been volunteer. Of course, we had to hire contractors and this sort of thing, of course, but it's all been maintained and taken care of by volunteers. And this garden particularly, it's just a pride. All of these flowers and plants that are in here were plants that were basic plants to a lot of the common plants that we have today in our garden.
Gardens being throughout Door County.
Yeah, these were typical plants that if you were to come to a farmhouse in Door County at the latter part of the last century, this is exactly what you'd find growing.
Well, this is a wonderful experience for me and for all the viewers. This is a wonderful day. We're so delighted to have such an eloquent spokesman for the Crossroads. You've really articulated the purpose of the Crossroads and its history and what is going on in the future. So again, as we come to this Crossroads, we can continue to learn. We can make a choice of ignorance or continue to learn, and all we have to do is look and come here and enjoy the fruits and the work of people like yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. At a little other corner of this garden, we come across the master gardeness, who is producing all this beautiful, I being of Irish heritage, C2 potato and get so excited. And they are beautiful spuds indeed, Marilyn.
Yeah, they're
you've produced.
Norland potatoes.
And Marilyn Cunningham, is that correct?
Yes.
And how long have you been a gardener in this garden and with other gardens?
Okay, the garden was started in 1995. 2 years ago, we moved the garden so it would be in conjunction with the green store. What we did at the very beginning, we tried to have everything from the turn of the century.
Do some gardeners call those heirloom varieties?
Yeah, they certainly could be called heirloom variety. Everyone you see here really enjoys gardening, and we're lucky to, every Tuesday morning we get, hopefully about 6 people out, but it can sometimes be only 2. But anyway.
So, how do you, keep the nails clean during the rest of the week?
That's what you give up if you're a gardener, I think. But
we saw the smile on your face from the activity, and we really appreciate being with you today. Thank you.
Thanks.
And the folks were just
studied actually international relations.
Where?
Madison.
All the people haven't already tried to say, how can you change these attitudinal biases? And does, I guess, is reasonably effective.
And conflict just exacerbated.
Hello, and we're now in this lovely country school that was resurrected here in Door County, and we're with Jerry Visti, and Jerry is the chairman of the Door County Environmental Council, and he's going to tell us a little bit about this school in particular, things he got away with in school, and what his mom made for him for lunch back in the old days.
Oh gosh. I didn't actually attend this school, but I had a chance to teach here way back in 1957, somewhere in there, 54, 57. And it seems that the school board and I couldn't get together on a mutual price agreement, so I moved on and they hired somebody else. Which is
Their loss.
they're probably.
Yes, most likely. And so was this particular school divided into more than one class?
Oh yes, this was your conventional rural school with all 8 grades in one room, and it was a unique learning experience. A lot of things happened then that would be beneficial to students today.
Can you describe some of those events?
Well, the younger students always kind of eavesdropped on the classes that were going on in front of the room, and by the time they got to that class, they probably knew the material pretty much already.
So speed learning through sort of vicarious association.
Yes, and it was great. People, you talk to any of the old teachers now, will say that some of these things are missing in education now. Civics, for example. You learn how to live with your friends and neighbors and how to respect them, and they respected you. Well, that's pretty much...
In the cities, it's more survival of the diverse groups against diverse groups instead.
In a rural situation, of course, it's unique. The children all walked to school then. There were no school buses, and there were more learning experiences went on probably on the way to school and on the way home again than you could imagine. We used to have great fun trashing out cattails, if you knew where those, when they were ripe on the road, just to make a mess on the road. When cars go by, whoosh, the whole,
You know, with fun like that, who needs video games, really?
Really.
Yeah.
And kids were more inventive now. They used to invent ways to amuse themselves, and it was great.
So where was this school located when it was an active school?
This school was at the corner of Shiloh Road and Double O, which is out there in a little community called Vignes, which is was primarily a Norwegian settlement until a couple other breeds came in there. And my family, my dad grew up a mile down the road. My great-grandfather homesteaded the same farm where my dad grew up, down on Double O. A lot of vistas around there.
Indeed, indeed. So you were telling me that your office that you work out of is actually the very place, the very original home where you were brought into this world?
That's right. I was born in our farmhouse. We're in the corner, the forgotten corner of Nassau-Wappie, and the room that I was born in is the room that is now the office for the Door County Environmental Council.
Wonderful. Do you ever have any kind of flashbacks as to that first day of life, and has it taught you anything about your behavior today?
Not really. I don't remember my first day of life, and I don't probably remember the first couple of years, but it was a unique experience growing up on a farm right after the Depression. We didn't know we were poor. We weren't really poor, but until you get out in the world, you don't see how everyone else was living.
So survival via the community, the extended family, and working together.
Pretty much. We, as a young person, I remember working all summer on the farm to have enough money to really blow it and splurge at the fair. That was a big, big deal. Really.
Little cotton candy, little ice cream.
Even some bought soda pop.
All right, instead of homemade variety.
Kool-Aid, right.
Interesting things we look forward to. And so how did you leave the farm community and go into the educational world?
Would you believe I was enrolled in, as I got out of high school, I was enrolled in Milwaukee School of Engineering, and my dad's first cousin, who was the superintendent of schools and educator, convinced me to go to a county college instead to become a teacher, which I did. And I was teaching school in West Jacksonport, which is up north. And the Uncle Sam decided he needed me to help defend the fledgling democracies of Europe. So I thought, yeah, Unc, I'll go. It was that or else. And I was in the Army then in Germany. I loved it. I kind of hated to come home because I had pretty good duty. My brother was on the farm and he was killed in a tractor accident. So I ended up my teaching career and came home to the family farm, which I was doing ever since.
Good for you. A wonderful circle with lots of richness in it, Jerry.
Mm-hmm. And then in 1980, the Wisconsin Public Service Corporation thought they would like to have our farm for an ash disposal site for a power plant to be located down here on the canal property, and we then formed a little corporation, found out a way of stopping eminent domain, and I became involved with the council back in 1980. Been there ever since. They can't get rid of me.
So that sounds like a multi-layered legal battle. Is that correct?
It was pretty much. We, like I said, we found a way of stopping eminent domain, and that took away their power.
Wow.
They couldn't do anything, really.
Wow. Some great input to preserve the farm and preserve the land and not have it be trashed by. Wonderful.
I couldn't. I gave up a career for that farm, and I couldn't really see it becoming an ash dump, really.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot more to the story than I can tell you here that the public doesn't know about, and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I understand. It's a wonderful day here at Crossroads, and we're standing near a picture of Abe Lincoln on the wall, George Washington, and
Sir Galahad?
Sir Galahad. I didn't recognize who was one of your classmates, I believe,
That's right,
Jerry,
right.
and the other
Rode that same white horse. Who would you believe?
to school. He didn't have to walk, did he? And the other historical fine feature person of Door County, Jerry, and I want to just thank you for welcoming us into the school you could have taught at.
Could have taught. Yeah.
And life's full of kudos, but this one has particular interest.
I'm glad to see that this old school was preserved, because so many of the schools are trashed or torn down or burned down or destroyed, and this will be here forever, hopefully.
Yeah, it's this particular volunteer society has done a wonderful job recreating this little crossroads. They need a creamery here, though, Jerry, don't you think?
An old cheese factory?
Cheese factory.
There's one.
Don't you think we should bring one over somehow?
Could have bought one.
All right. Could have taught here. Could have bought one.
Could have. Right.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Jerry.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Well, I know. And we're here in Vignes School, and this is a reflection of the school time of the past, of a century or so before, and it kind of reflects the simplicity of school life at that time. A piano in the corner, national heroes who we were to identify with, the ever-present chalkboard, drawing areas, the desks, and there would have been a potbelly stove in here too, I believe. But today we have with us someone of the contemporary scholastic atmosphere in Door County, Dick Weidman. And Dick, it's good to see you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Yes. Can you perhaps tell us and inform the viewers a little bit about how you perceive the changes and why the changes have occurred today that may be very apparent to some and maybe not so apparent to others, of the difference in education of the time this building is reflecting and what is going on today?
Well, I think, education in years past was also an integral part of the community. I mean, it probably formed a big part of the community. It was a center for people to gather. School children came here in some cases maybe just to have a day of warmth and learning as well. And their teacher was respected as a leader, a community leader within their own area. And I think today, as we look at schools and we think sometimes that possibly bigger is better, and that we look at increased efficiencies in larger school systems, I think we still look back to our roots where social interaction between students teaching students, learning that way, and also the community, the sense of community that schools have. I think in Sevastopol, for instance, Sevastopol has a really strong and rich history in the community and the school and the interaction that occurs there. And that certainly is a part of learning. But also today, we rely highly on, the technology that enables us to increase our abilities to learn more things, increases our awareness. It as our speaker today at the Crossroads alluded to, enlightenment is probably one of the biggest teaching tools that we have today of making our students aware and enlightening them of the environment around them.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. And I think we have a lot of modern tools today that we can utilize to better teach students, of that awareness.
So just as technology is being used to a greater level to help people learn, they're learning they need to learn about technology itself to survive in today's world.
Yes, and I think they need to learn how to interact with other people within their community and also within the world. I think that's becoming, very, very evident, that we cannot isolate ourselves, and that we have to be able to interact with. Right, the learning process, sometimes can be a complicated one. It involves a lot of factors. It's not just pure academics. And that's what I see, in a smaller classroom setting. I see that in teachers today that are very devoted to their subject matter that they're teaching. The small class size certainly is a big factor today, and I really hope that we can maintain those small class sizes, which are so important.
More personal attention.
Right.
Well, we've gone from the historical aspect of this beautiful old schoolroom that was both resurrected and restored here at the Crossroads to discussion of the present educational benefits of technology and what's going on in our integrated school systems of today to perhaps some vision of the future through Dick Weidman. And we appreciate talking with you, Dick, and thank you. What a great event this is.
Appreciate the job that you guys are doing.
Oh, it's great fun.
Right.
Just attached with.
I work with the Wisconsin League of Conservation Voters, and
You're down at the door here discussing water. And we're with a wonderful conservationist, young lady, and your name?
Jessica Garrels.
Hi, Jessica. And Jessica, can you describe your position and your position here today?
Sure. I am the Northeast organizer for the Wisconsin League of Conservation Voters, and we're here today at Waterfest because we want to protect the Great Lakes from water diversions.
So not conservative voters, but conservation voters.
Voters that are concerned about conservation, yeah.
Very good, very good. Not political, well, anyway. So can you tell me about the display, this educational, motivational display that you have?
Sure. We've got some public comments here that we're asking people to fill out, asking their legislators to protect the Great Lakes from water diversions. Wisconsin is one of 8 Great Lakes states, and actually the only state without a piece of draft legislation that would keep Great Lakes waters in the Great Lakes. So the public comments are really to encourage legislators to get the lead out and let's get something going on this so that we do protect the Great Lakes and our economies here and our way of life here.
So you're preserving the quality of water, but also the quantity of water. We don't want to necessarily lose this valuable resource, which we all need and our children and our children's children need.
Correct. The Great Lakes Compact was signed in 2005 by the 8 Great Lakes governors, and now it really is up to Wisconsin and all the other states to pass that legislation through. We'd like to see them go above and beyond the Great Lakes Compact because there are a number of loopholes. One is a bottled water loophole. I know you showed that before, but bottled water companies are definitely looking to the Great Lakes to make a profit. So we're concerned about that, and we'd like to make sure that that any diversions from the Great Lakes go through the correct process.
So years ago, I remember news reports about pipelines, natural gas coming up from Texas. We're going to divert Great Lakes water to New Mexico and exchange that for sand or something. So where is that today in the current commercial, economic, political arena?
Sure. Well, those ideas back in the 80s, a number of those came across in the early 90s, and that was really what got the Great Lakes governors to start meeting and figure out what should we do, what kind of agreement can we make to protect the Great Lakes. And that's not something that just happened a couple decades ago. We saw earlier this year an opinion editorial by a professor from Alabama that suggested all of the southern states band together and have the federal government ante up and figure out how to get that water down to these other states.
No kidding.
So these ideas are still out there, and that's why it's really critical that Wisconsin get on board with the Great Lakes Compact and do what we can to make sure that we're keeping the water in the Great Lakes.
Now, Minnesota's license plate says land of, what, 10,000 lakes?
That's what it says.
What if they just sold off the water of one or two of those lakes?
I really have not seen...
Would they change their license plate?
I think maybe we could get something going for them to have to change their license plate.
They would have to do that. Are you familiar with, well, you're familiar, of course, with ethanol, increased ethanol production and the drive toward producing more corn-based fuels to replace fossil fuels. In Nebraska currently, the great aquifer under great part of Nebraska and the Platte is being drained at a record rate to fuel the increased corn production so that we can have greater ethanol to supplant fossil fuel. How does that balance our natural resources out?
Are you referring to the Ogallala Aquifer?
Yes.
Well, there were groups of people that suggested taking Great Lakes water to fill up the Ogallala Aquifer a number of years ago, and so that is a serious concern as well. And I think we need to be thinking about what we're doing to conserve water and how we're using that water when we do consume it. So,
what percentage of water consumed in households in, say, Wisconsin comes from Wells Aquifer, which of course is affected by the Great Lakes, and Great Lakes purification systems? Do you know the percentage balances?
I don't have a statistic on that, no.
Okay. Well, if you find out, can you let me know?
I can let you know.
There's something burning in my head.
Okay,
Good,
okay.
good. Any, should we, if children were coming here today, besides the voters and the people who can make things move, what three things would you tell the children visiting here today?
I'd ask them first if they draw a picture of their favorite thing to do in Lake Michigan, because we're going to turn those into their area legislators and the governor as a sign of support for Lake Michigan. I tell them to conserve water when they're at home, shut off the faucet when they're brushing their teeth, and always be thinking about why you like Lake Michigan and why you come up to Door County, because I think water is one of the biggest reasons people come here.
And we're just this dot surrounded by a great deal of it. And we'd like to thank you, Jessica, very much. You're very enlightening, and we love speaking of this very fluid subject, water, that we all come to Door County to enjoy and enhance our lives. And let's preserve it and keep your spearheaded cause going. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Science, and it is fun. I'm honored to present to you today Professor Shakashiri from UW-Madison, you're the founder of the Science and Fun movement. You're into science literacy, which is near and dear to my heart, and I'm not going to waste any of his time. I want him to give the program. So, without further ado, Dr. Shakashiri.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Would you do me a big favor back there and invite the other people to join us here, so then they'll be listening to what we're saying and we don't have to listen to what they're saying. It's a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon, and I promise you a good time if you pay attention to what's going to happen. What does my t-shirt say?
Science is fun.
Oh, come on. Let's have a bit more enthusiasm. What does it say?
Science is fun.
That's more like it. So I want you to be really participating in this set of experiments that we're going to do and that I'm going to do. And I promise you a good time if you pay attention to what's going to happen. All right? And I want to say a few words at the beginning about what these activities relate to. We are going to do a lot of different experiments. As you can see, I am set up for them. But before doing that, I'd like to share with you a few observations. And I'd like to point out to you right away my website. So you can write that down if you want to go visit my website. Or if you want to learn how to get to my website without writing it down, you can just say quietly to yourself, scifund.org. 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 You say it 3 times and you got it memorized, right? You can write it down if you wish. It's okay. I write down a lot of different things. I'm very thankful for being invited to this very special facility. Those of you who live in this area, you really have to realize how special this facility is and how important it is to have the community support it. It's a very, very important place. And the place is not only the location, it's about the people. And so the more you participate in the activities that they offer, and the more you tell other people about participating, the better. Because this is a very special location, and it's a very special center for learning. My website is, as you see, scifund.org, and I'm very happy to be here today. And here's the title of my talk, Waterfest. This is about water. Before I get into the experiments, I just want to share with you very quickly some observations. Water, of course, is all around us here, especially in the Great Lakes area. And I'll say more about that in a moment. But I just want to tell you on a personal basis, a very personal basis, today is September 15th, right? Today is September 15th. It's a very special day to me because exactly 50 years ago, I left my native Lebanon and came to the United States on September 15th. At age 17, I came. Now you know how old I am. At age 17, I came to the United States with my parents and 2 younger sisters when my father came as a visiting professor to Harvard School of Public Health, presumably for 1 year. And then Harvard said stay another year and then another year, and he never went back. And we all have lived in this country for 50 years. Both of my parents are deceased now, but my sisters and their families and I and my family have enjoyed and continue to enjoy the wonderful hospitality and the importance of being a citizen of the United States. I just want you to know that this is a special, momentous occasion for me. So, I am also privileged to be the first holder of the William T. Evu Distinguished Chair for the Wisconsin Idea. There's a good Lebanese name for you, right? I know we have a lot of Scandinavians in this area, a lot of Germans. We have a lot of different ethnic groups. We even have Lebanese in this audience here. And I'm very, very proud of this accomplishment here, and I'm very happy to be at Crossroads at Big Creek. Just out of curiosity, are there people in the audience who have been in my class before? Anybody willing to admit to it? Huh? Nobody? Anybody who has a relative who either was in my class or is in my class right now? 1, 2, right. You came and introduced yourself. You said your son is in my class. In fact, I announced to my class the other day on Wednesday when I last saw my 356 students, I told them I will not be there on Friday because I'm coming here. And his son came down and introduced himself to me. and I just want to tell you how important it is to have these personal connections as we all try to learn together. So I'll talk about Waterfest, and I'll talk about water. I'm going to do some experiments that have to do with water. We'll get to that in a moment. I just want to tell you about planet Earth. This is a beautiful picture taken from what? Apollo. Remember what number it was? Anybody remember? One of the what? 13. Well, it's okay if you don't remember which one it is, but it is important to recognize that this was taken from outer space by human beings. that went into outer space and came back safely. And you can see that most of the surface of the planet is covered with clouds. And what? With water. Two forms of water: liquid water and then water vapor. You know, water vapor is invisible. It has no color, it has no odor either. But this is condensed water vapor. Clouds and fog are condensed water vapor. We're going to talk about water. We're going to do experiments with water. But bear with me for a few moments as we put this whole discussion about water in a context. I'll go through these very quickly. Here's a shot of what? The Great Lakes. How many Great Lakes are there? Well, Senator Leahy from Vermont a few years ago, you remember that, right? What did he do? He introduced a rider to one of the congressional bills designating Lake Champlain as a great lake. And, well, okay, that's how politicians do things sometimes. Where is Sturgeon Bay? Right there, right? They're about there, right? Yeah. What's this lake here? Winnebago. And what's this lake here? Mendota. That's Lake Mendota. And if I could blow this up, but I can't right now, I'd show you, where is it? Oh, down here. My house is right around there. I live on the lake too. Enjoy. My family and I enjoy the water. We're going to talk about water. You know, over 70% of the surface of the earth is covered with liquid water. Liquid water. And over 90% of the liquid water is in the oceans. So that's salty water. So that's salt dissolved in water. We're going to do experiments that have to do with things that dissolve in water shortly. Our bodies have a lot of water in them. A lot of water. And the environment that we live in, of course, is full of water. This room has in it a lot of water vapor. If it weren't for the water vapor that is in the room, my throat would be even drier than it is right now. But we cannot see the water vapor because it is colorless and it is odorless. We cannot smell it. So we'll talk about water, its different forms, its benefits. I want you to know that water is a chemical substance, a chemical compound. It is a compound of two elements, the element hydrogen and the element oxygen. Those two elements are gases at room temperature. When they combine together, they form a liquid. And so in science, in the chemical sciences, we study the combination of different elements and their behavior and their properties. And the chemical formula for water is what? H2O. The ratio of hydrogen to oxygen is 2:1 in combination. And the properties of water depend on what form it is in. If we freeze water, we get ice. And the chemical properties of ice are different than the chemical properties of water. If we evaporate water, we get water vapor, right? And water vapor heated above 100 degrees Celsius, which is the boiling point of water, is steam. Steam is invisible. We cannot see steam. What we see, if there is steam, we see the hot water vapor hitting the cold air and it condenses. So we see condensed water vapor. So water is all around us and its properties are important. Let me now quickly go through a couple of slides here. And you be patient and bear with me. We'll get to the experiments. You came here to see experiments. We'll get to those. But I would like you to understand why we do those experiments and the importance of doing those experiments. I am now beginning my 38th year as a faculty member at UW-Madison. I'm very proud of that. And I'm very proud to be with you this afternoon, as I've already mentioned. So I belong to something called the Wisconsin Initiative for Science Literacy. And the goal of the science literacy program that I founded, it is a national initiative but it's also, I dare say, international, because we go all over the world. And the goal is to promote literacy in science, math, and technology among the general public. Very much the same thing as this center tries to do in your community here. A very important activity. And then we would like to attract future generations to careers in research, in teaching, and in public service. Very, very important that we do that. And here is a partial listing of the programs that we have in the Science Literacy Initiative. You can learn more about this by going to www. You got it. See, this is how easy to learn. Learning is easy and a lot of fun if you pay attention, but also if you make up your mind that you want to do it. There's nothing you cannot conquer if you make up your mind you really want to devote your energies and do. So we have the Science is Fun programs. I'm going to give you an example of that. We have the annual Christmas lectures called Once Upon a Christmas Cheery in the Lab of Shakashiri. Has anyone here seen it on Wisconsin Public Television? Yes. Well, you look for it around Christmas time. It's telecast all over the state. It's telecast on PBS all over the country, depending on the choice of the local cable station and the local PBS station. Science on the radio. Anyone here who's heard me on Wisconsin Public Radio? 1, 2, 3 more hands, 5, 6 more hands are going up. You know what? Next Thursday, September 20th at 11 o'clock, tune into Wisconsin Public Radio. I will be there. In fact, I plan to mention something about my visit to Sturgeon Bay and about my visit to this very beautiful facility and how you as a community supported and benefit from it at the same time. I've already mentioned the Science is Fun website. Science in the City, we'll have a whole bunch of different programs. Women in Science, Capital Science. We take science to the state capitol. We want our elected officials and their staff to learn about the significance of science and the importance of science in our daily lives. We take students, actually, that do these programs. We've got the Center for Chemical Demonstrations, Conversations in Science. You can read about this when you go to the website. Just click. There's a very brief description about each of these programs. And you can communicate with us by sending an email message to the sciencesfun.org address. We respond to all communications within 24 hours or so, except when students send us a message asking for help on their homework. We don't respond to those, okay? So that's their responsibility. All right, so let's move on and talk then a bit about there it is. I want to share with you a quotation from the scientist Freeman Dyson, who's a physicist. And you will pardon me for reading this to you. You know, you all can read. One of the most insulting things that a speaker can do to an audience is put up a slide like this and proceed to read it. I don't mean to insult you. I just want you to hear the special emphases that I have in sharing these ideas with you. So bear with me, please, as I quote Freeman Dyson, who wrote a book in 1992 and said, "Science is a hexagonal mountain with 6 faces. The 3 beautiful faces of science are science as a subversion of authority, that is, subversion of scientific authority." That's how we make progress in science, by questioning what has come from the people before us. Because in science we're always skeptical and we make inquiries. We ask questions. We don't always get answers to the questions. In fact, one of the most difficult things in science is to learn how to formulate the question so you can try to get an answer to it. He says, science is an art form and science is an international club. Science is presented to our young people as a rigid and authoritarian discipline tied by mercenary and utilitarian ends and tainted by its association with weapons of mass murder. Well, he's a physicist, so he can talk about the weapons of mass murder, but biologists and chemists can also talk about the same thing. So science altogether is a very, very powerful tool and a very important human endeavor, but it has consequences, as I'll share with you very quickly. He says the way to attract young people into science is to show them all 6 faces and give them freedom. You see this word here, freedom. That's the most important word I can share with you today. That's what I really would like you to remember. Freedom. Freedom to explore the beautiful and the ugly as they please. Freedom. Very, very important word. I'll say a few more words about it, and then we'll get on with the experiment. So, I'd like to ask you a question now, and the question is, what is the one thing that you can think of that differentiates our society now from society, say, 50 years ago or so, when I came to this country, or 100 years ago, or society 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago? What's the one thing you can think of? Yes?
Technology.
Technology. This is not a rhetorical question. I'd like some answers. Media. What else?
Communities.
Community. Okay, there are all kinds of things. If each one of us really put our mind to it, we can make a list of about a dozen different things and select one that would be the answer to my question. In the interest of time, I'm going to give you my answer now in one word. In one word, the one thing that differentiates our society from all previous societies is science. You think about it. All the advances we have now in healthcare, housing, transportation, communications, technology, and so on are the results of advances in science. A long time ago, our ancestors were very good at technology. They built cities, canals, pyramids, invented the printing press, used electricity before we learned about electrons. You know, it wasn't until just over 100 years ago that we discovered the electron. Yet we knew about electricity. So in the olden days, technology used to drive science. Now, science drives technology. And science is what enables us to build pyramids now at the atomic level. You've seen pictures of those atoms built in the shape of a pyramid. So that's why I say to you that advances in science and in its twin, technology, have a lot of consequences. They lead us to new discoveries. These new discoveries give us enlightenment. We learn more. And they also help us make societal progress. But they also help us create new societal problems. And that's why we need to learn about science and technology and their role in our daily lives, the role of pollution that we contribute to the environment, the role of water and its importance to our health. Water is a compound which is important to the health and the preservation of every human being. Yet I will tell you, around the planet there are 1 billion people who do not have healthy water. They have water, but not healthy water. Why? Because of pollution-related issues. So, just a quick sharing with you about the perspective and the context in which we do these different experiments. And I quickly say to you, I make a distinction between scientific literacy and science literacy. Scientific literacy refers to the professionals in science, the practitioners of science, while science literacy refers to the rest of the population and their appreciation of science without having a deep understanding of chemistry, physics, or biology. It's very similar to having professional musicians who play in orchestras for us, and also having the rest of us be enjoying what they play. So we go to a concert, I don't know how to play, but I enjoy the music. And that's what we need. Scientists and audiences understand and appreciate what science is all about. So this is a quick tour through the different things which we want to talk about and do today. And I know that in schools you emphasize problem-solving skills, but I also would like to ask that you emphasize good judgment. Good judgment, because that's what life is really about. It's about good judgment. So, as we then move to this one, I remind you once again about the freedom to learn, that we live in a free country. This is the freest democracy in the history of humankind. And it's not an accident it's this way. It's not an accident. It's because people believe in it and people practice it. And that's why we have liberty. But along with that, we have responsibility. Yes, we are free to do whatever we want to do, but we have to do it and be responsible for the actions that we carry on. So, I ask that in everything that we do, all of us be humane and be also humanitarian, so that we can serve our community, serve our fellow human beings correctly and properly. Okay, so now we get to the experiments, and if it's okay with Kagan, if she's still around, or anybody else who knows how to open the shades, I would like you to do that. Somebody can help do that so you can see better, because, let's see, maybe I can do it here. I think she pointed out to me.
It's on the console behind you, sir. On the desk behind you. On the desk.
Oh, do this. Okay, there's a blank screen. Touch the screen?
I don't know.
I touch the screen. Blinds. Blinds, open all. Technology. Right? Okay. Can you see better now? Yeah. All right, so can I. I can see you better too. So, we're going to do experiments. In doing experiments, we always obey the safety rules. And one of the safety rules says, I must wear eye protection. So I put my goggles on. You see that, right? I do this because it's a state law. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I was sworn in by Judge Doyle, the father of our governor right now, way back in 1974. And among other things that he said to me and others who were sworn in as citizens, he said, enjoy your freedoms. You can tell that it stayed with me from 1974 on. I also want you to notice the sign that says here, fire extinguisher inside, right? Well, there's the fire extinguisher. It's ready to be used just in case something goes out of control. I'm not planning on anything going out of control. Just have it ready just to be used. Okay, so the first experiment I'm going to do is one where I take a match and I strike it. Big deal. You're saying you came all the way this afternoon to see Dr. Shakashiri strike a match. Big deal. This is an example of what we call a combustion reaction. A combustion reaction releases energy in the form of light, which is what we see with our eyes, and also in the form of heat. And if I don't blow it out or fan it out quickly, something else will happen, right? So I better do that. I wanted to think about this. Because I wanted to think about the process of combustion. Combustion is the release of energy in the form of light and in the form of heat. And this is an exothermic reaction. And I can fan this or blow it out. And why does it go out? For combustion, you need what? Something that burns. You need oxygen, usually from the air. And then you need what? A source of ignition. This match, or any other match right now, right, is potentially capable of combustion, but it's not burning right now. What's missing? Flame. That I strike it. Right? How do I generate a flame? What happens when I strike it? I'd like you each right now, take both of your hands and rub them like this, very fast. What do you feel? Heat. And what's the heat the result of? Friction. So, there's friction between the head of the match and the side of this box. Can I strike it over here? No. It's got to be someplace that generates enough friction in order to ignite it. So here it is, okay? So this is combustion. And I'm going to light this candle. Or try to light this candle. There it is. And why does the match go out when I fan it like this? The air is full of what? Well, there's more nitrogen in the air than oxygen, but there's enough oxygen to keep it going, but it went out. Why does it go out? I always want you to think about what's going on, right? And you see the combustion reaction right there? This is an example of what we call a controlled combustion reaction. You know what we call uncontrolled combustion reactions? Explosions. An explosion is a combustion reaction has gone out of control. So, I'm going to reach into my back pocket now and get my wallet out. What do people usually keep in their wallets? Money. What else? ID cards, credit cards, pictures. Okay, I want you to pay close attention so you don't miss out on any of the experiments that I do here. So I'm going to reach into my wallet. I'm going to get a dollar bill out, and I'm going to put this dollar bill in the flame like this. Did you see that? Was that too fast? I want you to pay close attention to what's going on in here, not someplace else, right? That was not a real dollar bill. That was a phony dollar bill. That was a fake dollar bill. It's made of what is called flash paper. And what we always do in science is repeat the experiment. So I'm going to take what looks like a dollar bill, and now everybody's paying close attention. I bring this to the candle flame, and it didn't even have to touch the flame. You saw that, right? It caught on fire. Flash paper is paper has been treated with chemicals, so when it burns, it doesn't leave any ash behind. Okay? To do the next experiment, I'd like a volunteer from the audience. Well, before you raise your hand, let me tell you what I would like help with, all right? What is it you're going to volunteer for? I'd like somebody from the audience to let me borrow a real $1 bill. Is there somebody in the audience who's willing to do that? You have it? What's your name?
Maddie.
Maddie?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a real $1 bill, and she's doing something very, very important now. In addition to volunteering, in the process of volunteering, she's doing something that all of us enjoy among ourselves. She's trusting me with her $1 bill. Trust is very, very important. And everybody has to be trustworthy. Everybody has to be trustworthy in order for society to function properly. So, I'm going to take this $1 bill, and I'm going to take this jar and open the jar. What do you think I have in this water? What do you think I have in this jar? What does it look like? Water. It looks like water, right? Right? How do you know it looks like water? You know from experience, right? You know from experience. So I'm going to take the $1 bill. I'm going to put it in this jar that has this clear and colorless liquid. Water is a clear and colorless liquid. I'm going to try to fish it out using the spare tongs. You see, it's dripping like any wet object would. Now take a good look at your $1 bill here. Maybe the last time you see it. I'm going to put it in the flame, and there is the $1 bill on fire. Or is it?
No.
It's still intact. Did you see a flame?
Yeah.
Was there a combustion reaction?
No.
Did the dollar bill disappear?
No.
Did the dollar bill leave any ash behind?
No.
It's still there. Yeah. But you saw a fire. So, now I ask you, can this liquid be water? No. You know from experience that water does not burn, right? I will tell you what this liquid is. This is a mixture of something we call rubbing alcohol and water. Isopropyl alcohol and water. We learned from this experiment that the combustion temperature of the alcohol is lower than the combustion temperature of the paper from which the $1 bill is made. And the water, this is a 50% mixture, half and half. And the water keeps the flame cool and prevents the paper from catching on fire. So I'm going to give you back your $1 bill. You've been a good sport. Give her a hand for helping out. And what does a $1 bill feel like?
It feels damp.
It feels damp. Of course, half of it was water, and the water is now what? Evaporating, changing into water vapor. So that was another example of a combustion reaction. Now, when something that has carbon in it burns, it forms carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a gas at room temperature. It has no color, so it's invisible. We can't see it. It also has no smell, so we cannot smell it. So we say carbon dioxide is invisible and is odorless. It's colorless and odorless. By the way, if you ever see a colored gas, you run away from it. You heard me. If you ever see a colored gas, you run away from it because all colored gases are poisonous. All colored gases are poisonous. The converse is not true. There are some colorless gases that are deadly poisonous. For example, Carbon monoxide, closely related to carbon dioxide, but different. It's a different compound. So carbon dioxide is a gas that is around us, and everybody knows about carbon dioxide gas because you know about carbonated beverages. And I need to just open the door here for a second and get another can of this. There it is. Carbonated beverage, because I'm going to do an experiment with this carbonated beverage. It has in it a lot of carbon dioxide using a baby bottle. This baby bottle has been modified. I took the nipple that has the hole in it where the milk flows out. I replaced that with the rubber bulb from a medicine dropper. So this is a very strong piece of rubber. I'm going to show you how strong it is by trying to blow air through it, see if I can inflate it. Here we go. It's very, very strong. Cannot do it. All right, so what I'm going to do is ask you to listen very carefully to this very familiar sound. Here we go. You ready? Did you hear that? That's the release of some of the pressurized carbon dioxide gas that has been compressed to dissolve in the liquid. I'm going to take the baby bottle and pour the liquid into it. What do you see? What kind of bubbles are those? Carbon dioxide bubbles. Where are they coming from? They're coming from the liquid where they have been dissolved under a great deal of pressure. There's a lot of carbonation in there, and you see those bubbles coming up. All carbonated beverages have carbon dioxide in them. And I'm going to put the screw cap on and tighten it. What should I do next? Shake it. You've done this experiment before then, huh? So I'm going to take this and shake it, as you say. And now you see how much carbon dioxide gas is dissolved in a carbonated beverage. It is able to inflate this piece of rubber that neither I nor any other human being can ever inflate with the powers of our lungs. And we're not just powerful enough to do that. Now, of course, you know that carbonated beverages have a lot of carbon dioxide in them, because after you take a sip or two, what do? You burp. If you burp, when you burp, do it politely and gently, all right? The burping is because the carbon dioxide gas is coming out of the liquid. So I'm going to try to open this slowly. If I open it fast, what will happen? We'll make a mess, right? Try not to make a mess. So there it is. And what happens when the drink goes flat? All the bubbles are gone. So why do you suppose we like carbonated beverages? Oh, some of them have sweeteners in them. Others have artificial sweeteners, right? Others have a little bit of alcohol in them, right? The reason we like carbonated beverages is that when we put some of the drink in our mouth, the tiny gas bubbles come out of the liquid and they tingle us under the tongue and give us a pleasant sensation. That's why we like carbonated beverages. So, carbon dioxide is a gas at room temperature, and it is invisible. It also exists in a different form. This form is called dry ice. Dry ice is solid carbon dioxide, and I want you to see that I'm putting my gloves on because I'm going to pick up some dry ice from the cooler that I have down here. And so, here are some chunks of solid carbon dioxide. What color is the solid carbon dioxide? White. Its temperature is minus 78 degrees Celsius. It's very, very cold. That's why I don't touch it with my bare skin. If my skin is exposed to it, or anybody's skin is exposed to it, we have to be taken to the emergency room because it causes severe frostbite. But these gloves are the ordinary garden variety gloves. They're good enough for this purpose. They're not very good insulators, but I'm not squeezing on them. Okay? And dry ice changes from being a solid to a gas directly without melting. When a solid changes directly to a gas without melting, we call that process sublimation. Can you say sublimation? Sublimation is happening right now, but we can't see it. How come we can't see it? because carbon dioxide gas is invisible, right? So now I'd like you to focus your attention. I'm going to put those right down here. I would like you to focus your attention on what I have in between my two hands here. What shape of vessels do you see in front of me here? Cylinders. And how many of them are there? You just count them, right? I want you to make observations. I want you to do the same thing I ask my students at UW-Madison to do. In order to sharpen your powers of observations and your skill of reporting the observations, I say that to your son and everybody else who's in my class. I say, pretend to be the play-by-play radio announcer describing to someone who's not with us what's actually going on. Not the TV announcer. That person has got it made because the picture almost tells everything, right? So, play-by-play radio announcer. So how many cylinders are there? 6. And what do you suppose we have in those cylinders?
Colored water.
What do they look like?
Water.
You think they're water?
Yeah.
You think they're liquid?
Liquid.
Yeah.
They could be a gel. How do we find out? We shake them because we know from experience what liquids do when they are shaken, right? We shake them. So experience, that's another key word I want you to remember and to use. So you can make connections between what you experience now and what you experienced in the past. That's what learning is all about. It's not about storing information in your memory banks. It's recalling the information and using the information properly. So we have colored liquids in there, and I'm going to take... Do I need to ask you to call off the colors? What color is in this? Clear? Clear is not a color.
White.
This is a clear and colored liquid. This is a clear and colored liquid. This is a clear and colored liquid. This is a clear and colorless liquid, right? It's colorless. From here on, nobody is going to confuse the words clear and colorless. They don't mean the same thing. A lot of other people out there think they mean the same thing. They don't, right? This is clear and... All right, so I'm going to take the dry ice. I'm going to put the dry ice in the cylinder. So here's one. Here's another one. I need more. So I better reach more here, get more. Anything happening? Do you see anything happening? Yeah. What's happening? Is the dry ice sinking or floating? Floating. Where? Floating where? Halfway in the cylinders? At the very top. Suppose I push the dry ice down like this. What do you see now?
Bubbling.
Bubbles? What kind of bubbles are those? They're carbon dioxide bubbles coming from the sublimation, right? How come there's a chunk of carbon dioxide right there? How come we don't see that sublimation process? Because gas is mixing with gas. Here gas is mixing with liquid, right? Okay, so I push this one down. Right? You see bubbles, and what else do you see? What's changing colors? The cylinders are changing color?
Yeah.
Come on, don't I have to guide you all the time? I'm happy to do it. But you have to develop the skill of learning and enjoying what you learn. The role of the teacher, the role of the parent is to guide. But you have to do your own observations and to report them. So there are all kinds of changes taking place here and there. When I push this down, right, I'm holding it down because I cannot leave it. If I put it up there, you don't see the bubbles. Why? Because it's less dense than the liquid, right? So there are two forms of dry ice. One is low density and one is high density. This is low density because it's floating. Color changes are taking place, right? And you see condensation on the top, this white cloud. This is condensed water vapor. The condensation is happening on the dry ice, on the carbon dioxide coming from the sublimation of the dry ice. And there you see. You notice that the fog that's forming is flowing downward, telling us, if we didn't know it, that carbon dioxide gas is denser than air. And if we didn't know it, this is a beautiful way to be reminded of it. You have a question?
Will dry ice still burn us if it is submerged underwater?
If you touch it with the skin, yes, because a frostbite. That's what the burn is, so-called burn, yeah.
But won't the water cool it down, considering it's...
No, the water is warmer than the dry ice. The water is around room temperature, about 20-25 degrees Celsius. Dry ice is at minus 78 degrees Celsius, okay? And dry ice sublimes. By the way, ordinary ice also sublimes. You know this from experience. In the wintertime, when the temperature is below freezing, after a big snowfall, you notice that the level of the snowbank goes down even though the temperature is below freezing. That's because ordinary ice also undergoes a process called sublimation. And if anybody knows about a frost-free refrigerator, that's how it works. That's how it works. The air that's blown through there removes the moisture from the refrigerator and causes more of the frozen water, the ice, to change through the process of sublimation. And you all know about sublimation. You know these air fresheners that you plug in the wall and they smell good? What do they have in them? A solid that changes to a gas. The same ones that you hang in rear view mirror of a car, they have a solid changes to a gas. So sublimation is fairly common, and we just have to connect our knowledge with it as we do the different types of experiments. So I'm going to take this candle now and I'm going to blow it out. And I put my hand in front. Why did I put my hand in front? I don't want any of the liquid wax to jump out and get to you, or even hit the floor. So what I'm going to do next is take this bucket, which it's empty except for what? Air. Air is a mixture of nitrogen and oxygen, but is also colorless. And what I want to do is reach back here to this flask. It has in it a lot of hot water. Now I use my gloves to protect my hands from heat, not from cold. They're not very good insulated. Notice I put it down. Okay? So what I'd like you to do, young lady, very young lady, is to stay back where you are. Okay? Could you just stay there? Could you just sit? Okay? For your own safety, it's okay. Because I'm going to take this boiling water, it was boiling, I'm going to dump it into this dishpan, and what do you see coming off the top? Steam. Steam is invisible. I told you about that a while ago, right? What do you see is condensed water vapor. When the hot vapor hits the cold air, it condenses, right? So I was heating this. I'm going to turn this heat off. So it's off. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in here and take some more of the dry ice that I have. As soon as I get it out of the paper where it's wrapped in, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with the dry ice. The dry ice is subliming. It's changing from being a solid to a gas directly. I have 2 large chunks of dry ice, right? 2 large chunks of dry ice, and you stay sitting where you are, okay? All of you, please, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to break this up like this and put it in here. This is how they make fog in the movies sometimes. They take dry ice and add it to a bucket of hot water, boiling water. They put a fan on it and blow it in any direction they want. Now you notice that the fog is moving downward, reminding us that carbon dioxide gas is denser, heavier than air. Okay? So this is condensed water vapor, and the condensation is taking place on the carbon dioxide that's coming from the sublimation. So at the end of next month, we mark what? Halloween. Bubble, bubble, to all in trouble, right? All right. So condensed water vapor, the condensation is happening on the dry ice. And did I shut that door over there? Yeah. But I know how to open it. We get this out of the way and put it right here. Okay, so that continues to go. Did you like that? Yeah, that's pretty. I like that too. Okay, now, here's another experiment we're going to do. This one we're going to do using those 2 plastic bottles. What size are they? 2 liter, right? And they're empty except for? Air. Can't see the air. I'm going to take, you're going to stay back there, right? You promised me, everybody, right? For safety reasons. Please, it's all very exciting, I know it is, but I want you to be sitting back because I don't want any chemicals to spill on you. So, what I'm going to do is take out of this smaller plastic bottle, which is not a clear bottle, right? You're making your own observations. I don't have to make them for you all the time, right? I try to guide you, but I want you to know something. Neuroscientists say to us that the brain receives about 11 million pieces of information every second. And we cannot process that information very fast. We can process about 40 of them. So there's a lot of information that's coming to our brain, your brain, my brain, all the time. So you have to learn how to sort them out. So I'm going to take a little bit of the clear and colorless liquid into the 2 liter bottle and put it down at the bottom. Clear and colorless liquid. I will tell you right now, this clear and colorless liquid is not water. Its name is hydrogen peroxide. You all know about hydrogen peroxide because you can get some in the drugstore, right? And what do you use it for if you get it in the drugstore? As an antiseptic. If you cut yourself, you put it on your wound, and what do you see when you put it on your skin? Bubbles. Bubbles. What kind of bubbles are those? Are they carbon dioxide bubbles? No. Hydrogen peroxide breaks down into water and oxygen gas. And that breakup is very, very slow. It's not happening right now. It can be made faster, it can be made to go faster if you add something called a catalyst. And the skin has in it, and the blood has in it, a lot of substances that speed up the breakup of the hydrogen peroxide. I'm going to do the same thing now using a different catalyst, which you can see I have in this small glass bottle. And what color is this catalyst? Black. And so I'd like you to watch carefully as I take a small amount of this powder right here. You're all watching this very carefully. Here we go. Hydrogen peroxide breaks down into water and oxygen gas. The temperature of this breakup is very high. It's an exothermic reaction. It's so high it changes the liquid water into water vapor. The water vapor hits the cold air and condenses. You saw the plume that came out. You saw the cloud that came out, right? You also notice that the bottle has what? Shrunk. If you take a metal wire and you heat it, what happens to the metal wire? Does it shrink or expand? It expands, right? Plastic, on the other hand, if you heat it, shrinks. And what I'm going to do next is what we always do in science. Repeat the experiment. So here we go. You ready for this? You know what you're looking for now, right? Here we go. We didn't set off the smoke alarm here, did we? It's not smoke anyway. It is what? It's condensed water vapor. I'm going to tell you a little story. In Madison, I do this experiment. I do it all over the world, actually. But in Madison, sometime not too long ago, I was at the airport trying to get on the plane, and I was standing in front of the ticket counter, and a bunch of kids also going on a trip were right behind me. And then when they saw me, they rushed to me. You know what they said? They didn't say, "Hi, Dr. Shakashiri." You know what they said? "Condensed water vapor." They had seen that on television. They had seen it in person as well. So, all right. So this is the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. And this is warm right now, so I have to be careful how to handle that. Now I want you to see a different way of doing the same experiment, but it's a different way. So I have a glass cylinder right here. It's glass. Metal hits the glass. We know from experience what that sounds like, right? Its volume is about the same as these 1 liter cylinders over here. I'm going to put some hydrogen peroxide in there. This hydrogen peroxide that I'm using from this bottle is 30% hydrogen peroxide. What you get in the drugstore, what I get in the drugstore, what everyone gets in the drugstore is 3% hydrogen peroxide. This is 10 times more concentrated, and you cannot get it in the drugstore. This is a potentially hazardous chemical. What I'm going to do is add to it another chemical from this bottle. What does it say on this one? And what is this? How would you identify this? Okay, what color is it? Yellow. Do I have to ask you the questions all the time? You know? Look, you know all of this. The idea is for you to develop the skill of expressing it. You have the freedom to do that. Exercise your freedoms and do it. So, I'm going to now take some of the soap, detergent, and put it in there. All right?
What was the black powder?
What was the black powder? The name of the black powder is manganese dioxide, MnO2. It's a combination of manganese with oxygen. It gives us black solid. The combination of hydrogen gas with oxygen gives water. See? So different combinations give us different compounds, and their properties are different. So what I'm going to do next is add another catalyst with the soap detergent. Was it a catalyst for the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide? No, it's still sitting there looking back at us, right? So now I'm going to add what color is this? Amber, yellow, orange, right? It's a water solution of potassium iodide. Potassium iodide. I'm going to add a little bit of it and we'll see what happens. Do you like that? Yes. So that's the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide in the presence of soap. And when the oxygen gas is released from the breakup, it expands the bubbles of soap, and you see what happened there, okay? So it's a very same reaction as we saw before, but the catalyst was different. The catalyst was different. So, again, we need to be careful about that. I don't want anybody to touch this. We all love to touch things, but please don't touch it because, among other things, it is warm. It may be hot. So you be careful about that. All right. So, hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. Water is H2O. They only differ by 1 oxygen, yet they behave so differently. This beaker that I have here has in it the clear and colorless liquid, and you see that there are some bubbles on the side. You see that? You see that? Right? What do you suppose those bubbles are? They're air bubbles. They're air bubbles. You know from experience, if you open the tap and fill a glass with water and let it sit for a while, you see bubbles. Where are these bubbles coming from? From the dissolved air in the water. So the water coming out of the tap is usually cold, right? Colder than room temperature. So gases dissolve in water, and it's dissolved more if the temperature is low. As the temperature rises, then they come out. So the solubility of gases in water depends on the temperature. And that's what's happening here. I filled this up with water. It was at a cooler temperature, and it got warmer now. In fact, I'm going to cool it again by taking some ice cubes. Let's see if I can put the ice cubes in here without spilling them. Where are the ice cubes? They're floating in the water. Another interesting property of water. Frozen water is less dense than ordinary water, right? It's less dense. In fact, if it weren't for this property, life as we know it would not exist. Would not be. Because when things freeze, if ice were denser than water, then the ice would sink to the bottom, and then the whole thing would freeze, right? Be no life as we know it. So ice is less dense than water. That's because of a property of water molecules when they combine with each other. It is called hydrogen bonding, and that's responsible for explaining this behavior. So what I'm going to do now is what we all do in the summertime or any other time that we want to have cold drinks. We get what? We get a tub, we put water in it, we put some ice in it, right? So I'm going to cool down this drink here by putting it down. And what happens to it?
It sinks.
The can sinks. And then I'm going to take this other can, because some people like this compared to the other one. And I'm going to put this one in. What happened to the... Do you see what I see? What? What do you see? Tell me what you see. What's floating?
The can.
The ice is floating?
No, the can.
The beaker is floating? The what is floating? The can that is labeled diet is floating compared to the one that is just the ordinary Coca-Cola. Right? So I try to push it down. Go down. It's not a very obedient can, right?
No.
Why does it float? Why does the can that has... what's the difference between the two cans? I know the color and the label is different. What are the differences on the inside of the can? Sweetener. Which one has sugar in it? The regular one. And the irregular one? Oh, I mean not the irregular. The other one is what? It also tastes sweet, right? But it has no sugar in it. The one that's at the bottom of the beaker has 39 grams of sugar in it. That's a lot of carbohydrates. That's not good for somebody like me who's trying to get rid of this stuff here, right? I have to burn it off. That's a combustion reaction goes on inside the body. It's not like the other ones that we saw here, but it's similar in terms of burning off the undesirable fat here. And this one is also sweet, but does not have sugar in it. It has a tiny amount of sweetener, artificial sweetener, and that tiny amount gives the same sweetness as 39 grams of sugar. And so, which one has less density? The one with the artificial sweetener or the one with the sugar sweetener? If you go to my website, as I invited you to go earlier, scifun.org, you will see a list of home experiments you can do at home, including this one and other ones that you try to do so you can learn a bit more science and also think about what it is that you're saying. So here's the root beer. Do you think this is going to sink or float? How do we find out? We just stop talking and do the experiment, right? So we put it in, and what happened to the water? It overflowed, right? It overflowed. Why did it overflow?
There's not enough room.
Because not enough room. The water was displaced by the can that I put in there. You know these beautiful boats that you have in Sturgeon Bay here all around the peninsula? Is their density less or more than the density of water? Are they floating or are they sinking? Okay? They're made, some of them are made of wood, but others are made of metal. If I drop this in the water, what's going to happen to it? So there's more to it than just density. It has to do with something called buoyancy, right? Buoyancy. So we always have to be thinking about what we're saying and try to come up with explanations that make sense. All right, so I'm now going to do another experiment. Is it okay to do another experiment?
Yeah.
Okay, you like this, so I'm glad you like that. So I'm going to take, what is this?
A balloon.
What color is it?
Red.
Do I have to ask you all the questions myself? No, you can make all these observations and learn how to share them with others. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to tie the balloon, and Now I'm going to ask you a question. Do you suppose there's a way for me, or you, to hold this balloon up in the air without touching it? You suppose there's a way to do it? I don't mean put it on top of a beaker like this, you know. I'm not touching it now, right? Do you suppose there's a way to suspend it up in the air without touching it? You're nodding your head. What's the way?
You're going to blow on it.
Blow on it? Like this? Yeah, I could do that, but it's a little hard on my neck. It's a little hard on my neck. So suppose I use this. Huh? What is this? Okay, I'm going to have to plug that in. So I have to plug it in, and there it is. All right. So watch what I do now. I put it up here. Is the balloon up in the air?
Yeah.
Am I touching it?
No.
It's suspended in the air. So there's a way to do it, right? What's holding the balloon up in the air? Air is air right now. It falls down. What? Pressurized air. What's coming out of the nozzle? No, I have it on cold. You think you can do this at home? Yeah. Watch what I do here. Watch. I turn the angle a little bit like this. Look at that. Look at that. It's to the side. Huh? It's to the side. Look at that. All the way out there. Right? Right. Let's see how far I can get away doing this. What was holding the balloon up in the air?
Air.
What was coming out of the nozzle? Moving air. The air was moving. Just like when I blew on it, it was moving, right? What holds the 747 jet plane up in the air? Moving air, right? The air pressure above the wing is slightly different than the air pressure below the wing. This is called a principle in science. It's named after a Swiss mathematician. It's called Bernoulli's principle. Bernoulli's principle. Everybody knows about Bernoulli's principle. Look, if you took a shower this morning, I don't want to get personal with you, but if you took a shower this morning, right, and you stood inside the shower and turned the faucet and the water came running from the shower head, what happened to the shower curtain? It moved. Which way did it move? In or out? It moved in. Why? Because the rushing air swept along with it some of the air molecules, making the pressure inside the curtain a little less than the pressure outside the curtain. And so that's why it moved in. Bernoulli's principle. It's all common sense if you put your mind to it. It's all common sense, and it's beautiful to understand and to explain. Okay, so now I am going to ask somebody from the audience. Let's see. Would you be willing to help me? She said, sure. That's the spirit, right? So, what I'm going to do is, what's your name?
Mary.
Mary. Thank you, Mary, for your help. So I'm going to give you this end, and you step right back there without running into anything or anyone. Okay? Mary and I have what it looks like, what? A long tube. I have an opening over here. Mary, is the ending over there open or not?
No.
What color is this tube? And how long is it? About how long is it?
5 feet.
5 feet? 10 feet? 6 feet? No, I have a 7. But it's about 8 feet. It's about 2 meters long, okay? 2 meters long. Now, I have an opening. You have an opening, right? So, what I'm going to do is switch sides with you, Mary. I'm going to give you this side here. Okay, you take this side, and I want you to blow air in there, and the audience and I are going to count how many breaths it's going to take you to inflate this, okay? You ready? Ready. Okay. 1, 2, slow motion. 3, 4. No, we don't want her to pass out. We don't want her to pass out. We don't want anybody to pass out. Let's see what she did. Not too bad, right? How many breaths? 4. 4 breaths. Now, I'm going to empty the air out of this, okay? And I want to give you the closed end, Mary. And Mary, I want you to pay close attention. You remember what Mary did to try to blow this wind tube? she blew into it the same way you and I would blow into a paper bag. That's what she did, right? Now, Mary, you watch very carefully what I do. I'm going to open this up. You hold it up about a little higher for me. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to fill it up with one breath. You think I could do that?
Yeah.
Yes? Yes? Yes. You're either saying yes, some of you are saying no, some are saying yes. You're either saying yes because you've seen it done before, or because you have confidence in me doing it, right? Yeah, right. It's like that trust we talked about before. All right, so here we go. Watch this, Mary, and everyone else. Let go, Mary. Look at that. See? Now, do you think I have that much air in my lungs?
No.
Huh? Do you think I have more air in my lungs than Mary does? No way. Mary, did you see what I did? I blew one breath right down the middle. I'm going to empty this and ask you, Mary, would you like to try it again? That's the spirit, see? That's the spirit. So here we go, Mary. All right, so one long breath right down the middle, Mary. One long breath.
I was hoping that I could go home and tell my husband that I'm not full of hot air. That's what he always tells me.
Let's find out. Close it up. So, I don't have more air in my lungs than she does.
No.
But you know what?
You blow the air into it.
You know what? You are paying attention. You are paying attention. I blew air into it. Mary blew air into it. Right?
You blew the air that was in front of it into it.
This young man was paying attention. Have you ever stood by a bus stop or a truck on the highway and goes by you very fast? What do you feel after it passes you?
Wind.
You feel the wind because it's moving air. When I blew in, Mary, one more time, okay? When I blew in here, I blew the same amount of air in my lungs, even not all of it, as she did, as anyone would. But when I blew the stream of air right down the middle, it sucked along with it, because it was moving air, it sucked along with it the rest of the air. That's called, what's his name's principle? What's his name? Bernoulli's principle. Look, this whole thing was a setup, right? I told you, I showed you Bernoulli's principle. Mary, you take this home as a souvenir. Thank you very much for helping out. I really appreciate it. Okay, all right, so the cans are floating. All of them are floating or just one? Right? We looked at the color change. Any more bubbles here coming up? No, but the bubbles are on the side, right? As what's that?
Why did the red
Why did the red what?
completely turn?
Why did the red what completely turn what? The red what?
Color.
The red color in which cylinder?
In the third.
I'm trying to get you to express yourself a little
Why
bit.
did the red color in the third cylinder completely?
Where I put the dry ice, right?
Right.
Where I put the dry ice, right?
And the other one, the green one, it still has some.
That's because the coloration is due to dyes. And these dyes are sensitive to something called the pH, the acidity or the basicity. So the colors that you saw at the beginning were the colors of these dyes when we had household ammonia in them. Carbon dioxide in water gives you carbonic acid. When the carbonic acid reacts with what's in there and with the dye changes color, indicating to us that a chemical reaction has taken place. That's why these dyes are called indicators. They're acid-base indicators, and it can tell us how much of the acid substance that we have. Okay, so now I'm going to do one more experiment, then we all can go home, or do whatever you want to do. So, I have with me a book. Uh-oh. This is a good book. I wrote this book. it says on it, what does it say? Chemical demonstrations, right? You see that, right? It says on it. And at the bottom it's got my name right there, see? Bassam Shakashiri, right? That's my name, right? I wrote this book. This is a famous book, if I may say so. It's world famous. It's been translated into a lot of different languages. So, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use this book here to do my last experiment. But really, this has been a very long session, but we've all enjoyed it, and I kind of forgotten what the last experiment is. So I'm going to open the book and read the instructions for the last experiment. Would that be okay if I did that? Is that okay with everybody? Okay, here we go. This is not an ordinary book. This is a real hot book. You see that, right? This is not a real book either. This is just the book cover, right? On the inside, what do we have on the inside? We have 2 batteries. Can you see that over here? I want you to see it. I have 2 batteries, and I have a light bulb up here, and then I have a flint that I soaked with lighter fluid when you were not looking. Now, I also want to show you something else. At the bottom of the book there is what?
A red thing.
A red thing. What's a thing? What's it? A little red button, okay? Now, batteries have stored in them chemical energies. When I push the button, the chemical energy changes into electrical energy, and the light bulb comes on. But this light bulb, like all other light bulbs, is not 100% efficient. It gives off light energy and also heat energy, and it ignites the lighter fluid. So remember the fire triangle? You need 3 things to have a fire. We went through this a little bit before. We didn't call it the fire triangle. You need something that burns, you need oxygen usually from the air, and then you need a source of ignition. Okay? So watch carefully as I do this, right? I move the book away from my face, right? And I push the button, and the flame comes on, right? Now you tell me what happens when I close the book. What happened when I close the book? You're like the students in my class at UW-Madison. You give a correct answer, but not to the question I asked. This is why they don't do well on the exams. The question I asked was, what happened when I closed the book? What happened when I closed the book?
Flame went out.
The fire went out. The flame went out. Why did the flame go out? Because there was no oxygen, as some of you said, okay? So, I opened the book now. Is there oxygen or not?
Yes.
Oh, there's no flame. How come? You need 3 things, right? What should I do to get a flame going? Push the button?
Yeah.
What should I do before pushing the button? Move it away from my face. Thank you very much. Right. Right. Never forget safety. Okay. I push the button. There it is. Okay. We teach about the fire triangle so people learn how to put out fires, not to start fires. All right. So you and the Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout in Lebanon a long time ago. Learn about fire and safety and handling the different types of chemical reactions so we all get to enjoy the beautiful chemical world that we live in. And again, I want to thank you for your wonderful hospitality and for coming this afternoon. And please take full advantage year-round of this very glorious facility and visit our website as well. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Today has again been one of those marvelous days in Dora County. We had a real treat today by going to Sturgeon Bay and seeing the wonderful Crossroads Exhibit Center, where they marry the history of Dora County and educational processes. And today they had Waterfest. The people who organized this did a fantastic job. It was a flawless event. Happy faces, happy families, and most of all, learning about the significance of water and the thankfulness that we should have for water. You know, our bodies are composed of a large percentage of water. The Earth's surface the majority is covered by water. And yet, here in Wisconsin and in Dora County, we take this water for granted, this beautiful Lake Michigan. Today we talked to firefighters who gave us and shared with us the significance of using water to quench and to put out blazes and to deter property damage and to help people from becoming injured. We talked to conservationists. We talked to people who are using water and natural organic practices to raise beautiful vegetables, which are sharing with Save the People here in Door County. Door County, one of these rare places on earth that's basically surrounded by water. We then capped the day by seeing a professor from UW-Madison, a chemist, share his expertise on water and the significance of hydrogen and oxygen and interaction of those two things to give us fantastic results. He was educational, amusing, and motivating, actually. We're thankful for the existence of Crossroads. We're thankful for programs like this. I hope all the viewers are able to share in some of those educational programs. And to sort of cap the day, what could be better than to enjoy some of the bountiful resource that we have here in Door County. To all of you, this is Dennis Connolly, your Den at the Door, with producer and audiovisual man Laddie Chapman, here on the shores of beautiful Lake Michigan. To you.